Hi everybody, and welcome to Filled My Head, the channel where we explain data to help answer questions that people ask. Or maybe they didn't ask, but we did. Today we're taking a look at where not to live. This is the first of a two-parter on where not to live if you want to stay dry. For part one, we're digging into one-day rainfall records in metropolitan statistical areas in the United States. I generally prefer cities for statistics since some MSAs like Houston or San Antonio are really one city with a bunch of unincorporated suburbs or small central business districts, while other cities such as Dallas-Fort Worth or Los Angeles are really a conglomeration of numerous separate large cities. But MSAs made more sense as using individual cities would have limited this list to representatives from just a few MSAs. So if you're hyperventilating because your city had a day with 1 inch more rain than another city on the list, chill out. It's likely because there's a city in your MSA that beat it out for the top spot. Sadly, there's probably somebody who's going to be getting all tense about that. With that said, let's find out where the rain falls like bad life choices from a young television star. Charleston, North Charleston, South Carolina. On October 3rd of 2015, the city of Charleston, Charleston, not North Charleston. North Charleston is that other city in the Charleston metro area with a completely different and strikingly original name. On that date I said just a second ago, 11.5 inches or 29.21 centimeters of rain came falling to earth. That's some serious moisture. But here's the crazy thing. Had I made this list where individual cities and not just metro areas could be listed, and listed more than once based on the individual days, this wouldn't even have come close. There's some rainy places in the U.S. Nonetheless, if you were here on that day, you probably didn't want to be, even if you like rain. New Orleans, Metairie, Hammond, Louisiana. Like every other metro area that lies along the Gulf of Mexico, be it Corpus Christi, Houston, Mobile, Pensacola, or Tampa, New Orleans is hot. Sticky, sweat-striped down your back and into your underwear kind of hot. There's no shock here that NOLA appears on this list. It's an easy drive from where I am, so I've been there a bunch, and only one time did it not rain when I was there. It's gross. But on May 8, 1995, the city got a special kind of drenching. That day, NOLA saw 12.24 inches, or 31.09 centimeters of water dumped on its collectively sweaty head. If you were there when it happened, and you wanted to avoid the raindrops, you would have been out of luck. This is serious rain, folks. Not quite biblical, but we're going to get there. Portland, South Portland, Maine. This isn't the Portland that comes to mind quickly when you think about rain. I lived in that one for a bit, and I promise it would never make this list. But while Portland, Maine is a lot of fun, it had no problem making the list. And it shouldn't come as a surprise. My wife and I spend as much time as we can in Acadia National Park, and that lies up the coast of Maine from Portland. We fly into Portland or drive up from Boston when we go, but either way, we stay at least a day in this unique and wonderful city. People are nice, there's a bunch to do, and there's no shortage of good food if you like your food from the water. But, as mentioned, it does rain. If you were hanging out in Portland on October 20th of 1996, you would have been as wet as if you had gone swimming. That day, the city of Portland saw 13.32 inches, or 33.83 centimeters of water fall from the skies. Wilmington, North Carolina. It's almost like this metro area has one city in it, so they just named it after the city. Why they don't do that for some of the other MSAs in the U.S., I'll never understand. I went through Wilmington one time. I don't think I stopped. I don't recall, so even if I did, it obviously didn't stick in my head. But I guess if you lived there, you weren't going to be too surprised to see it on the list of rain havens in the U.S. On September 15th of 1999, the skies let loose a lot. That day saw 13.38 inches, or 33.99 centimeters of rain. I could have mentioned this with NOLA, but folks, when there's more than a foot of rain in a 24-hour period, you're getting as wet as a pair of orcas playing toss with a harbor seal. That's a thing, by the way. Go look it up. We'll wait. Orcas are the jerks of the dolphin world. They're really big, really mean dolphins. Okay, we digress, but there are a number of cities in the western U.S. that don't see this much precipitation in a year, let alone a day. So don't move here if wet is something that bugs you. New York, Newark, New Haven, also known as the New York City metro area. New York City gets a lot of precipitation, more than you might think. It actually sits near the top for U.S. cities in terms of annual rainfall. But huge daily rainfall amounts are a bit more sparse, and I enjoy New York City like few other places. I wouldn't want to live there thanks to the outlandish cost of living, but I love visiting. It's a really safe city. It has some incredibly beautiful weather during certain times of year. kind of help offset some of the not-so-pretty stuff. And there's an almost limitless supply of things to do. Some of them are even free. But if you were at Long Island's MacArthur Airport on August 14th of 2014, probably felt like there was more water than oxygen in the air. What a mess, as 13.57 inches or 34.37 centimeters of rain flooded the streets. Too much rain, really. Bring a raincoat and galoshes. I love that word, by the way, galoshes. My grandmother used to use it. She was born in 1907. Does anyone use that word anymore? If you do, let us know in the comments, because we're probably going to get along. Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. On September 16th of 1999, the city of Myrtle Beach got pelted with rain. And I mean really pelted. If you were there on that day, you would have had the opportunity to swim in the streets. Cats and dogs ran for cover as a whopping 14.8 inches or 37.59 centimeters of water fell from the sky. Honestly, South Carolina sees a fair amount of rain in a lot of places, so they're built for it in terms of homes and infrastructure. But this much water does damage regardless of where it falls. If you don't want to stand for rain, and honestly, if you don't like a whole lot of it all at once, look somewhere else besides the Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach metro area. But, if you can tolerate the wet, I would say visit here. Really a fantastic place. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. This is one of the metro areas that caused me to say, hey, use only the single worst day from each metro area, so this list isn't mostly a listing of the worst rain days ever in Florida. Well, okay, the Gulf Coast states in general, though Miami's on the other side of Florida. Seriously, people here know what it means to get rained on. If you happen to be sitting on a fire hydrant that is flowing full blast, you have a good idea of what it was like in Miami on April 25th. 14.85 inches or 37.72 centimeters of boat-floating fluids fell on Miami that day, leaving behind a seriously wet mess to clean up. Wonder if you could tell Miami apart from the Everglades afterward. I mean, this is an epic amount of water. We haven't reached biblical proportions yet. We need to at least start thinking about where that bar lies. I know where my personal bar lies, and we are going to hit it. Pensacola Ferry Pass, Brent, Florida. Florida's on this list twice, and if we extended the list out to include a few more spots, it would appear even more. Florida sees a lot of rain along the Gulf Coast, especially the city of Pensacola. My wife and I like to vacation here. It's a reasonable drive from home and has a ton of history, as well as some great beaches and plenty to see and do. We'll go out on a boat to watch dolphins on occasion, and we'll follow it up by going to eat alligator in an outdoor restaurant. But just don't try either of those things when the sky turns gray and menacing. On April 29th of 2014, the city of Pensacola saw 15.5 inches or 39.497 centimeters of rain fall from the sky in a single day. I'm really tall, and that would still bother me. So here's the lesson. If you mind rain, find a different beach community to shop for homes. But still visit. Pensacola Beach in particular is a really fun place. Chicago, Naperville, Elgin, Illinois. Now this was a surprise. I was born in the Chicagoland area, and I go back a lot to see family that remains there. You do get a bunch of precipitation in Chicago, but it isn't always rain, of course. I mean, let's face it, lake effect snow sucks. And I don't like rain there. I mean, a rain out at Wrigley Field is something I consider a crime against humanity. Sorry, Sox fans, but I don't care if you get rained out. And I was born in the Heights, so, feel free to fill in the comments. I digress. It's kind of surprising that the Chicagoland area finished this high on the list. If you're wondering where in the Chicagoland area it was that took the silver medal, it was Aurora, Illinois. Aurora sits on the farthest outskirts of the Chicago metro area and is actually the second most populous city in Illinois. On July 18th of 1996, Aurora got positively pelted. How about 16.91 inches or 42.95 centimeters of raindrops falling on your head to get you out of taking a shower? That's seriously wet. Okay, before we get to number one, there was a ton of data to sift through on this one, and honestly, despite having some high-level reference points, I still had to do more research and validate some of the crazier totals, as well as validate that some conflicting sources on the web weren't using the master datasets from the NOAA, at least not the most recent ones. There's some serious work that goes into finding individual rain records. There are some really good tools out there, but it's hard to find specifics for some of these smaller cities within larger MSAs. The net here is that, up to this point, the numbers are as good as I could get. Honestly, they're good enough because we're talking about places that are hovering around a foot of rain in a day. That's an anomaly in the U.S., not a regular occurrence. So it isn't like there's 10,000 data points to sort out. But the number one spot, the record rain for a metropolitan statistical area, is a crazy number that isn't even close to being challenged by another MSA, let alone any location in the continental U.S. where rainfall is measured. You have to go to a park in Hawaii to beat this 24-hour record. If you are in the continental U.S., no other state has a location that's recorded within 9.5 inches of this MSA's daily rainfall record. Seriously, rural Alabama, where it rains a ton, was 9.5 inches behind the top spot. And that doesn't count for this video because we're only looking at population centers. With number one, I think we can agree that we are officially biblical. The number one spot belongs to the Houston, the Woodlands, Sugarland MSA. Alvin is a small suburb located on the south side of Houston between Simon and Theodore. Not really. Houston doesn't have chipmunks, just a boatload of squirrels and more reptiles, amphibians, and birds than people. Seriously, if you live here, you probably have at least one reptile living in your house right now. Alvin is actually between Sugarland and Galveston, the latter of which is the southern end of the Houston MSA. Any further, and you're in the Gulf of Mexico. And if you were to go into the Gulf, you might just stay drier than Alvin did on July 25th of 1979. On that day, Hurricane Claudette dumped an astonishing 42 inches. That is 3 feet 6 inches or 106.68 centimeters of rain on the town of Alvin. Now, the Houston area is known for its downpours and floods, but this fire hose being sprayed from the sky is in a category of its own. Miraculously, there were no deaths. But there was an enormous amount of destruction left in the path by the floods that ensued. You'll see Houston hovering near the top in some other videos I'm working on, and that might make me a little dense because I live here. I was here when Claudette struck. Sucks to be me. I live on high ground, at least as high as it gets in Houston, but like everyone else in the aptly named Bayou City, I live close to a creek. So I'm sure my days are numbered. It is the most populous city in Texas, so maybe there's some positives to explain the huge number of people. I'll look into it. Our mission at Filled My Head is to help people understand the world better by making data simpler to comprehend. Thanks for showing up today and bringing your curiosity. No data sources are perfect, but all data sources used that we can link are linked in the notes below. So go explore. FilledMyHead.com is launching in early 2022, so keep an eye out. We'll be bringing a lot more info to the website, including expanded lists, infographics, and enhanced articles that dig into the how, what, and why behind the subjects we look into. Leave a comment or suggestion for more episodes, say hi, like and subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon so you know when more content is posted. There's a lot more content to come, so check back regularly. Thanks.